Let's grumble. In this video, we're going to go over 4 basic puppy commands. Sit, lay down, sit up, and stand. Now we call, there we go. We call sit up, we call it a different word than just sit because the puppy is going from a down position into an up position. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure you have high value or treats that are high enough value that your puppy's going to be interested in it. Yes, he's showing off. This is my buddy Ollie. He's showing off that he already knows how to do this. Now when you're doing this, I like to typically hold treats in both hands. And you want to go pretty quickly from one exercise to the next. You're going to find a lot of times your puppy's going to sit and then bounce up and go somewhere else if you don't go quickly. Also, make sure you're holding the treat within about an inch of their nose. Yes, and you're already doing the floor routine. We're not ready for that. That's the end of the video. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lure him into a sit position. And usually you do this when they're standing. So you touch the nose. Let's get to it from a stand. And you're going arc shape up. As soon as he sits, you're going to say your marker word. I'm going to use the word good for Ollie. So let's go ahead and show him that again, Ollie. Come here, buddy. Come here, come here. Come here, Ollie. There we go. Good. And then I pop the treat in. Then I hold the treat there and I go straight down. Good, when the chest hits the ground. When I hold another treat, touching the nose and going up into a sit. Good. I'm okay with a paw at this stage. And then I hold a flat hand and pull away. Stand. Well, I would say actually good because we're not ready for the cues. Don't say sit, 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 which is a very common mistake unless your puppy knows it. You don't want to use a cue or a command word until you can reliably predict your puppy is going to do the command about 90% of the time. That's why we use marker words, just to make it easy for them to understand. All right, when you're doing these, I like to go again, bang, bang, bang. So I'm going to do these really quickly. Now, quick note on the pawing. I'm not a big fan of teaching your puppy to shake because this is what you get for a lot of things. You can always teach it later. And you're still on the stage 3. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and if he paws at me at first, that's okay. But eventually you would hold out and not give him the treat unless he sits or does whatever it is without. All right, now I'm narrating, so I'm not doing a good job of marking. So let's go ahead and we'll do that one more time. And this time I'm gonna mark all the cues. Or mark all the actions. So I'm gonna lure up into a sit. Good. Or down. Good. 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 Now, if your puppy is really mouthy and tippy, it's very normal. Sometimes holding a flat hand like this will prevent them from kind of nippling on your fingers. If your puppy is jumping up a lot, that can be an indication that you're holding the treat too high. So make sure you're holding at your puppy's nose level. All right, now Ollie already knows this, so now we're going to go to stage 2, which is going to be introducing the cues or command words. So now I'm not going to do this until I'm pretty reliable that the dog is going to be able to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and say sit, and then give the treat. Well, that's your job is to eat the treat, buddy. That's not my fault. Sit, treat. Get that treat in there pretty quickly. Down, up, stand. I don't think he has a stand command, but he did a very good job. Actually, that's a good point. All dogs learn from gesture first. They learn the auditory cues later. All right, now once your puppy is doing these pretty quickly, and I like to do about 5 sets of each one of those commands in a row. Now, the hardest one is usually that one right there, the lay down position. So if your puppy is struggling, one of the things you can do is sit down on the ground like this, and I'm gonna go ahead and lure little Ollie under my leg. Make sure your leg's low enough. As soon as the chest hits the ground, say mark it with a yes or a good, then release the treat under. Then you can go like this, go right back here into your up, and then go into a stand. Now you can also use like a stool or something that has a low bar on it. So the idea is your puppy has to manipulate itself to get underneath. Now in puppy class, don't be surprised if your puppy can't do this in class. This surface is a little bit unnerving for puppies the first couple times they're doing it. This is stuff that you definitely want to practice at home. Now I like you to practice this with about 4 rotations. So those 4 commands and go through each one of them. Sit. That was too late. I don't do it that way. So so if you just see your puppy sit like that, just go ahead and give them the treat. And you can also pet for those sort of things if you don't have a treat. And that's actually a really important thing to do. If every time your puppy comes up and sits, make sure you pet them. That will make them more likely to want to sit in the future. So what you want to do is go through all 4 of those, sit, down, up, stand, and then repeat it. And do that in one room 4 times. The next time you practice, go to a different room. It's closed. Next time you practice, go to a different room. Also make sure you're doing it in different postures. So now I'm going to be doing it from this position. Sit, down. Well, that was a stand. Also, you want to do it when you're standing, also when you're sitting down. Dogs don't generalize well, so it's really important that you practice in different postures and in different locations, also different times of the day. Now, if there are different people, a number of people in your house, I would recommend every single person in the house practices a loop of four circles of this at least once a day. But the more you practice, the faster they're going to get it. Now, as you saw earlier in the video, Ollie was going from a sit to a down to an up. This is what I call the floor show. The puppy now knows all the commands, and they're anticipating that you're going to go to the next one, so they're just going to give you the action first. When your puppy does this, that's a good time to start practicing these things out of order. Ollie, down. See how that was harder for him? Because he's used to the cue of being in a sit first and then going to that down. So start practicing them independently, or reverse the order, or just change it up a little bit. Also, when your puppies are not cooperating, Ollie. Never get mad if your puppy doesn't listen to you, and try not to compete with their nose, because you're always going to lose and you're just going to get frustrated. A lot of people, their puppy won't sit, they do this. Dogs have what's called an opposition reflex. Simply put, the more the pressure that you put against them, the more pressure they're going to put against it. So the more you push your puppy down, the less likely it's going to want to sit down. So avoid doing that. Use the lure, use the high value treats, keep that treat within an inch or two in front of their nose. One last little note, Dalmatians here don't have a problem sitting, but Greyhounds, Great Dane, there are certain breeds of dogs that really don't like to sit because of their anatomy. There are other dogs that might have an injury. So if your puppy normally can sit and then suddenly stops, that's a good indication you want to go in to see your vet. You might want to record your puppy try to do that, and then certainly never push your puppy if that's the case. If it's painful for your puppy, we certainly don't want them to endure that, and they're not going to want to do that. There's going to be more resistance. So always be listening to your puppy. We call that puppy and dog consent. If your puppy ever moves away and says, I'm done doing this, don't get frustrated and get angry with them. No, we're going to practice more. Practice needs to be fun. So make sure that if you get frustrated or your puppy gets frustrated, try to stop the last good repetition. And that's really important. Always make your last repetition a good one, because that's the freshest memory your puppy's going to have, and that's going to be what they're going to think of the next time you pull out some treats and try to go through the sit, up, down, and stand. Now, there are a couple other tips. Once you've practiced inside, then it's a good time to practice outside. And you might want to practice on different surfaces, as well as on different, surfaces like wood to grass to concrete. Also, you might want to practice on wet grass and things along those lines. Dirt, sand, gravel, those things are, but be careful. Gravel, some surfaces the puppies aren't going to want to sit in. And so I may always take that into account. Another tip is to make sure that you're practicing, or not to make sure, but you can practice before mealtime. And you can use your puppy's kibble for this. This is a wonderful way to train with kibble, because you're going to feed your puppy anyways at least 4 times a day. We'll talk about that in a different video. But right before you feed them, before you grab a handful, ask for a sit, then a down, and then an up and a stand. Do that a couple times, and then put the food in the bowl. I also like to incorporate it in regular opportunities, because that's when we're going to ask our puppy to sit. So when you're going to the door, ask for your puppy to sit, provided it knows how to sit. If it's too excited, move further away from the door, practice again. Ask it to sit before you put the leash on it. Ask it to sit before you open the door to the kennel. So all of these things, if you're going to invite your puppy on the couch, which usually we don't recommend, but if you're going to do that, ask your puppy to sit before it gets those things. That way your puppy, after a while, it'll start sitting in front of you to prepay for it. And I would definitely make sure that anytime that somebody wants to pet your puppy, you have them sit before the person starts to pet or give your dog a treat. We have several of our puppy collections instructors where the puppies will do that as their way of saying, I want some attention. And that's a beautiful thing. We call it manding, or learning to mand. So the more you ask your puppy to sit for things, think of it as a way of saying please or thank you. But it's a nice way to accentuate this sit down and up and stand command. That's my buddy Ollie, and these are some tips on how you can teach your puppy sit up, down, and stand.
Quest, you are a goofball.